faces in the blackest night, spinning tales of emerald light. Myron and Phil with the banter tight, lantern stories taking flight. Heroes clad in emerald light, cosmic battles in the dark of night. Guardians calling from the galactic height, power rings are shining bright. Tune in for the mighty lore, legends that you can't ignore. From Mogo to Sinestro's War, the podcast of Oed gives you more.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast of OA, episode number 256. I'm Myron Rumsey. My friend on the other end is Mr. Phil Bova. Phil, my friend, new theme, new intro. What do you think?
I love it. I love it. I feel honored all the time, man. No, I really do. It's just it's one of those things where you and I get to hang out, and talk and chat and stuff, even though we text all week long, but at the same time we just, it's one of those things we just get to sit down and talk and we have a lot of people listening, which is kind of cool. So no matter when they are, it just kind of feels like we're talking to the omniverse and you know, whoever gets
Well,
us gets us.
I've said it before when Bill and I first started the show, I was like, nobody's going to listen to this thing, and here we are, gosh, 14 years later, and people are listening to it, which is great, which is
Yeah.
great. It's been a couple weeks since we recorded. Anything change in your world in the last 2 weeks?
No, nothing has changed. Other than crappy weather here in the Midwest, but no, nothing changed.
For those that maybe didn't listen or watch the last episode, my universe has been rocked since the last time we recorded. I had a stroke actually almost 2 weeks ago tonight when we were recording. It
Yeah.
was starting. I didn't recognize it as a stroke because it wasn't very, very minor stuff. But 2 days later, I was in the hospital and full on trying to deal with a stroke. And a lot of people sent me some great comments on Twitter and social media, or I should say X, and social media and responses to the last video on YouTube. I'm not going to go through and rattle off everybody who said something because I know I'll forget somebody, and I don't want to do that. But um, please know that I read every single one of them. Um, sorry. It means a lot to me, and it's really helped me get through the last couple weeks.
And that's the important thing. I mean, it's not only that you have a fandom and, we may disagree on things, like there's people out there that like Batman and there's people out there that like Simon Bass.
Shame on them, both of those
It
people.
is. But at the end of the day, we're all here for the same purpose, here for the same reason, and we should be humane to one another. And, I can tell you right now that when I got news of this, I was scared shitless, man. I really was because, and I hate to drop that bomb on here, but like at the end of the day, I'm all the way over here in the Midwest, and my gut instinct is to want to get on a plane and get out there. It's not so easy when you got a family and a job and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah. The good news and what I want people to know is that I'm surrounded by a great family. My wife has been absolutely amazing because I'm a horrible patient. The struggles I've had in the last couple of weeks has been a lot of it emotional and psychological, and trying to, you don't really accept your limitations till you have to accept your limitations. And I've been working hard so I can walk again, and I'm walking bet well. Left hand is not so great, but I'm working on that every day and trying to get it stronger. And I'm hoping I can come back and still be able. Right now, typing is one of the biggest frustrations because I communicate a lot that way, and I just can't type with my left hand right now. It's not working good enough. I can move it around. I joke with people saying, the added benefit is I can flip people off and say it was poor muscle control. And I meant to give my thumbs up. Uh, but it'll get better. I have the will and desire to try to get my life as close to 100% as I can. And some of that is unlearning 60 years of bad habits, uh, which is which is
I
no
mean,
easy task.
we all have those bad habits.
Um, but I don't want to linger on my stuff because people have a lot worse, and I'm not going to linger on it. But
Hey, but a
thank you for everybody.
side note question to that though. just out of curiosity in the past with Green Lanterns. I wonder if there's ever been an incapacitated Green Lantern that had to use a construct for like maybe they got had a missing arm or a missing leg, or they were paralyzed from the waist down. And the con
I don't recall, but it would be kind of an interesting thing.
well, I mean, you bring up your left arm not being able to use, and thankfully it wasn't worse, and you're still able to use it. But at the end of the day, you have a Green Lantern that isn't able to use their left side for whatever reason, but yet when they got the ring on, they're able to move and do that stuff with construct-based exoskeleton, so to speak.
Sure, sure. I know like there was an issue, I think I can't remember which the story was. I think it might have been right around the time of Emerald Twilight where Hal had a broken arm and he used his ring to make something to make his arm stay in place, but never to replace a non-functioning limb.
I think it was in. He also did that in that animated. I think there was an
It
animated he
might have
did
been, it
that.
might have been.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I know I'm not reading DC versus vampires. I know they're in the like 17th miniseries about that, but in the most recent one, Wonder Woman tore Guy Gardner in half.
Yeah.
And he
Poor guy.
apparently used his ring to make a lower body for himself.
Oh, well, there you go. I need to read that. I did see that it was Green Lantern based on the cover, and I was like, I wonder if I ought to flip through it just to see what's going on. I have no interest in vampire. I mean, I'm interested in vampires, but not. I don't know, not to the degree.
It was interesting in the beginning, but now it's kind of played itself out for me.
But I have been into that All Winter. That's been a good Elseworld based series. Anyway, not
So
Green.
this episode, we
Mhm.
have Green Lantern Corps #1 to talk about. Um, but before we do, as always, we like to try to cover any kind of news. Not that there's been a lot of news, but there has been some, mainly on the lanterns front. In the lanterns front, there has been some hiring of some production staff. So primarily the costume designer, that's Cynthia Ann Summers. She worked on The Last of Us, and John, and I may mispronounce it. It looks like John Pano is a production designer. He's also worked on The Last of Us, and then Rebecca Rinks is the person in charge of music, and I'm not familiar with any of her work. So they're starting to flesh out some of the staff behind the scenes. It's supposed to start filming this month, so we'll see what happens
I wonder
from
what
there.
kind of music base they're going to go with it. I wonder if they're going to do soundtracks or if they're going to do like a score.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think the only thing I saw from her about her with her name involved was she worked on True Detective.
Mm.
So I don't know what it's going to be. I myself like the combination of orchestra music combined with modern tunes when they make sense. But it'll be interesting to see how it all fleshes out when it comes out. It also related to lanterns. There was a promotional video that James Gunn put out Super Bowl Sunday with Guy Gardner. Did you see it, Phil?
Yeah, so it was hard not to miss it. I mean, it's all
Yeah,
over
it was
social
all over the
media.
place.
I
Uh
thought it was cool, man.
it was okay.
I don't know what the riff is on this guy. And that's literally speaking because Guy Gardner is that guy. He's the guy that people riff on.
Yeah.
I think I'm digging the promo for it. And I think people are missing the point of Guy Gardner.
Yeah, I think until we see him and see some actual dialogue come out of his mouth, it's
Right.
hard to say. But you can tell by his mannerisms that it's playing off of the classic Guy Gardner from the Justice League International era kind of thing.
Yeah. It's
Although
the shtick.
one of the comments I heard was that the hair color was off.
I don't know. I mean, and you don't,
Well,
it's kind of like the same thing with the Superman having the trunks on, or should he have a,
well,
I don't know. I get why people hinge on certain things and
I,
why he should be redhead, but
I
come
I
on.
get it, but he's he's also no spring chicken, right? Uh, my wife is a redhead. She is 67 years old. Her hair is much more strawberry blonde now. So to see Guy Gardner be a little bit more strawberry blondish, I can get by that because the gray hair creeps in and it changes the color of your hair. Um,
And also keep in mind too, Guy Gardner's older, right? I mean, apparently.
well,
Well, I don't
yeah,
know.
they all are.
But I don't know. I think people are missing the point. I think they're riffing on the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And I think they should go back and read some Guy Gardner before they optically look at something and automatically pass judgment. I mean, To me, I think what James Gunn leading up to, par for what how we feel about Jordan being the older one and stuff like that. I think what Gunn is doing is interesting, and I think people should give it a chance before they tear it apart. I mean, you know,
I get some people's concerns in that that Guy Gardner was a younger Guy Gardner.
right?
And when you see Guy now, he is a little more tempered.
And more
It's
matured in certain
yeah,
ways.
he's
Yeah.
been through that journey. And this is a Guy Gardner who's aged but hasn't been through the journey.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, it would have been cool to see like Guy Gardner, how he was on that Super Bowl promo, and seeing him back to back with a like a booster gold because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it just they both have that kind of style, man. And I just think I don't know. I think he's going to be one of my favorites coming out of this. I'm just looking forward to visually what he's going to bring to the table. It's going to
We
be
haven't
cool.
seen anything in context yet, and I think that's
No,
important. I think it's important
but
for us
I'm
to see
but
that.
I'm going to give it a fair shot.
I know I'm already against it, but just because of the age thing. But
I know.
um,
Par for that, I think you should at least go into it and look at it from the context of just being a lantern show and maybe put that to the side a little bit.
it's gonna be hard.
I understand. And I would never tell you how to do that. And I don't think I could do that. I don't think I'm going to do that either. I'm just going to try to enjoy it, because it's going
Yeah.
to be fresh. It's going to be nuanced. So I want to give it a chance to breathe before people start tearing it down, man, because I mean, if you and I both know anything when it comes to social media. It's unforgiving when it comes to stuff, and unforgiving before stuff's even allowed to breathe. I don't know.
I could get behind it more if I knew that they were going to parallax Hal and bring him back and DH him. I'd be okay then. But I do have a hard time with a Hal Jordan who isn't around for the formation of the Justice League. I
You don't
just think
want to
that's
you don't want to see Hal and Sinestro sitting in a bar sucking back some whiskey in a dark corner somewhere talking about old times and fighting the Sinestro Corps War.
no. I want to actually experience the Sinister Corps War as it happens. But anyway,
Understood.
we got a comic book to talk about, so let's take a quick break. We'll come back and let's talk some comics.
In brightest day or blackest night, there's only one place to listen to the best in Green Lantern. That's the podcast of Oa.
We're going to talk Green Lantern Corps #1. Been a while since we had a Green Lantern Corps book. Happy to see it back. This is written by Jeremy Adams and Morgan Hampton, and artwork is by Fernando Pasarin. I am not familiar with Morgan Hampton's work. Are you at all, Phil?
I am not. I'm
Okay.
not.
So I approached it from a, well, let's see what this is about. It was interesting to see Kanjar Row right off the bat. We haven't seen Kanjar Row since 2014. It's been 11 years since Kanjar Row has been in the pages of a Green Lantern book.
And quite a different Kanjar Road too. He
Yeah,
looks
absolutely.
more
A different
formidable.
take. A little bit, yeah, definitely more of a threat. The last time we saw him, it's funny, the last time we saw him was when we also saw Starbreaker in Green Lantern Corps number 34. And that was an issue where they had John and those guys had taken some inmates and were trying to use them to help the Green Lantern Corps during the whole thing with the Durlans. And he was basically a background character there for the Yucks more than anything else. So it was interesting to see him here as much more of a formidable character. I still don't know what I think about John's outfit. Has it grown on you any better than it has for me?
No, I liked his original stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not bad, but I like the original outfit.
It's the
I mean,
boots for me. It's
it
the legs.
it kind of looks like it's a cross between a comic book and the animated series. It's edgy because the animated series was straight. If I remembered, it was like straight down or something like that.
Yeah, the boots are the only thing really that throws me off is the boots. It looks like we're definitely doing this as a police, the Green Lantern Corps are once again a police force. You can see that by John's creation of a police shield, which I thought was a little, I don't want to say out of character, but wouldn't be the first thing I think he would do. I would think he would do like a military police kind of a thing, an MP thing, but whatever. Deals with these folks in pretty short order. We're seeing a lot of Green Lanterns. A lot of them are new characters. It's interesting to see St. Walker as a Green Lantern.
Wait a minute, where'd you see? Oh, yeah, there he is. I'll be darned.
Yeah, on that title page.
Yeah, right there with them
Uh,
holding that patient or whatever.
and Biz is back, which is makes me happy. Or maybe it's not Biz, maybe it's his cousin, twice removed. Uh, interesting to see that.
Is
Uh,
removed.
Biz. Interesting. I love there's a sight gag going on where Guy Gardner's sitting at a table with this alien that looks like a living water blob, and the character gets bigger, and then it goes sploosh and turns into a water baby, which I thought was kind of funny. To me, it was the only real humor in the book that landed for me.
It
I
had
was
handcuffs on too, if you notice.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. Joe's trying to talk to John and have a conversation with him about the whole thing with Ellie and his mother in the ring, although we haven't really seen any evidence that the mother is still in the ring. I,
Okay, so two things about that. One thing I felt like Joe just kind of felt out of place. Well, not that I felt like she felt out of place in the book, but I felt like she feels out of place in the book itself.
yeah, I agree.
You know, like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I should be in
Right.
Far Sector, which there was because she had a decent run in Far Sector, and I don't know why they left that thread because it felt like she would have been a better fit for continuing that legacy over there. But here it just seems like, well, now you're going to be twice removed character, and we're just going to have you hold a clipboard and walk around and check on stuff. Sorry.
Well, that's a big part of it. I mean, right now she's reduced to being just another Green Lantern.
Right.
And I have to say that whole thing, that whole facial look on her face when she said sure, did not like the artwork there at all. When she's got the half smirk on her mouth. I thought that was out of like it reminded me of like a Mad Magazine piece of artwork, not in a good
I'm,
way.
I'm still worried about the visor. I mean, what if she's walking and that hits on something? That's gonna hurt.
I do think that I think that Joe Mullane was a better character when she was in Elseworlds
Yeah.
because she had something that was different and unique. She had to function independently. Here, like I said, she's just another Green Lantern, just another Earth Lantern, sucking panel time away from other characters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but that's what happens when you take away from a title book, it's you get I mean, Simon Baz is the same way when him and Jessica were leading the Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
At least she's getting, or she's done a little bit more than he has in their run up to now.
And if you look at like in this situation, she's in the Corps captain's office. So she's apparently the captain of the Green Lantern Corps. I wonder what Slack thinks about that. Uh I guess do you
They're
think
changing things up, maybe they're trying
yeah,
new
there.
leadership, you know.
I just I don't want to be a knock on the character, but what has she done to earn it?
Jessica,
Yeah.
I would say she's done a little bit more than some of them have. I mean, she has been around a little bit. I mean, she yielded to Yellow for a little bit. I don't know. I mean, in her defense, and if I was going to come at it from the approach that because I like her as a character, I don't I don't feel like she should be leading. I think there should
Yeah.
be somebody else sitting there. If they're going to make a change, that's fine. I understand. It makes sense why Jessica would fill that role because I think that Adam's purpose is to try to make her more of a dominant character because she's a female Earth Lantern, and I could be reading that wrong. But at the same time, I do feel like it would be cool to introduce another character that was leading the Corps that had more veteran leadership. Kilowog would have been great in a leadership role like that.
I only look at it as is that her strength? Is this a good fit for her? Or is
And
it
that's another
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
or is it just a case of I got to find something to do with these characters, so I'm going to stick her in a desk job, which I don't think helps the character.
And that's only a question that Adams could answer.
Right, right. I just from my own perspective, I don't think it helps the character at all. She is also at risk of becoming just another Green Lantern. She kind of already is there. When is the last time that her depression and anxiety really made a difference anywhere, other
Yeah, I
than
don't
when
think
she was
that's
a
been
Yellow
written
Lantern?
in. Yeah, I don't think that's been written in her characterization in a long time. Maybe spats here and there from different writers that maybe hold on to that thread. I don't think
It,
anybody's holding on to it like that's the that's the crux of how her character came to be, which I think loses kind of the characterization itself when you it's like taking you can't take away depression. You
Right,
can't
right,
take away
right.
alcoholism. You just
No,
those things don't go away. Just
right.
because you overcome them doesn't mean they go away. And her character being built on that premise, I think it's I think it's taken a downhill spiral since then.
Yeah,
It,
agreed. It's the same, it's the same thing with Joe and to Kyle to some extent. Kyle was, he started as a fresh character and it was basically to see the Green Lantern universe through fresh eyes. But here we are, how many years later? Gosh, is it 30? 30 years later, and that character can no longer be the new guy. So who is he and what makes him matter? What makes him distinct? Why would I choose to write this character when I have half a dozen or so at least of really good alien characters I could focus on?
right.
It becomes just a matter of giving what panel time you have to the Earth Lanterns for the fact that you have these Earth characters that you feel compelled that you have to use. And I think at some point, it goes back to the adage, you can't make everybody happy. And I think the overall product will suffer if this is a continuing trend because it's not really the Green Lantern Corps if it's just focusing on the Earth Lanterns.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. You have to pan out. You have to pan out and
Yeah.
show what other offerings are out there. And not only that, I want to find out where Mogo's at. I mean, what happened to Mogo?
Right, right. Why isn't Mogo choosing the ring bearers like he used to? Or
Yeah, that's
they used
a
to.
little bit different too, how they're doing that.
Right, right, right. I also thought it was unusual that Simon Baz no longer has his arm tattoos.
Oh, he doesn't, does he?
Nope. He doesn't have
Maybe.
his gun anymore either. I thought he was carrying his gun again.
But
But
so what'd you think about the reveal of the Almighty Fowl?
I was kind of surprised, but not
See him
too
in the green, huh?
surprised. I I guess this is the cynic in me showing through,
Okay.
is that DC wants there to be a dynamic between Sinestro and John for the sake of the Lantern show. And so they're going to stick him in this book to build up the dynamic because there isn't really a big relationship there. That's the cynic in me talking.
No,
Uh,
he's always been a Hal villain, right? I mean, there
well,
hasn't never been a really climatic battle between John and Sinestro.
I
Not that
think
I can recall, anyway.
I think Sinestro has always been a Green Lantern villain, but he's always been a Hal Jordan arch villain.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah, right.
So in this situation, I almost feel like they're trying to shoehorn it in. Uh, I also do not get into the whole Kelly Ellie thing.
Yeah, that's confusing me.
Kelly is not a Green Lantern. Get her the F off the planet. Get her back to Earth. Let her live her life. And they got to deal with the whole Ellie thing. I find it interesting that John was able to create Ellie to reproduce a dead person and there's no repercussions. Yet when Hal did it in Emerald Twilight, things went where they went.
So, how do you think Sinestro got the green?
I don't know who ultimately decided that. I don't know. I thought that was really unusual, a bad choice. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But again, I feel like it's almost shoehorned in for the sake of we need to build up a relationship between John and Sinestro. I think it also further takes away from the fact that you've got a core of all these other really cool alien characters, and that he's now going to suck up even more panel time.
I have a
Um,
theory that Sinestro has always had a Green Lantern ring.
really, that's neat. That's a neat idea.
I just kind of I don't know. I feel like the dude switches in the background and there's no context to how. Like the red, and back in during Blackest Night and Brightest Day, a lot of that stuff was explained.
Right, right, right.
But I feel like with Sinestro, with him flip, because I mean, he seems like he's flipping these rings on a dime, but there's no background explanation on how he ends up with it because this came out of the blue, right?
Oh yeah, there was no foreshadowing of this that I could see.
So I don't know. I just have this weird feeling Sinestro's in the background. He's got something going on, and maybe he's got a collection of all the rings.
It would not surprise me if he wasn't trying to find out more about what's going on and harness it for his own purpose.
if you see him show up later on and he's wielding a different color ring, obviously other than because I don't, what has he done? He's done white, yellow, red, green. What else has he done?
I think that's it. I think that's
Yeah,
it.
see. So if you see him in another color,
I wonder, thinking back over Sinestro, especially as John's redefined him, his whole goal was to manipulate the Green Lantern Corps into it being what he wanted it to be. And
right?
maybe he truly sees this as, hey, now I'm on the inside. We've got a set of guardians that really aren't taking as much control. Maybe I can finally have the influence I've always wanted and make this what I want it to be.
Right, man. You're talking about the mother of all moles right here.
Right, 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 right.
I
Uh,
like it. I like it. I'm gonna hold on to that. Just like I held on to the Kilowog wasn't dead thing.
the whole jump to Tamaran I thought was interesting, and Blackfire's interactions with John I thought were just weird.
Well, what about John's interactions with Sinestro too? I mean,
Yeah, those I kind of saw as being in character. Just her overall attraction to John and really pushing the sexual energy there. Again, the cynic in me kicks in, but uh,
I miss his relationship with Fatality.
I do too.
I always thought that was a cool relationship. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was right or wrong, and who can say that about anything when it comes to comic books, but I
Right,
always
right.
liked them two together. I always thought they worked well with one another. Missed it. Still miss it.
I just thought the whole Blackfire thing just it was kind of cringy. I almost felt like this book was written more by Morgan Hampton than Jeremy Adams. Maybe Jeremy Adams provided some of the overall plotting. I liken it back to the days when Venditti was doing a lot of the work for Van Jensen, and Van
Hmm.
Jensen was doing the actual scripting, but Venditti was feeding a lot of the stories. Uh, the whole thing with I hope this doesn't turn into every issue we find somebody who's using the fractured spectrum to do something and we recruit them into the Green Lantern Corps. I don't want it to have to be a recruit of the month book.
You're talking about when Vexaru is inducted?
Yeah,
I mean, it just seems like it. I mean, to be quite fair, I like her and I liked her costume. I thought her outfit looked pretty awesome. But again, are these guys going to go around and just produce a ring out of their hand and just automatically and say, here you
right,
go? I mean, I didn't even know that they had the power to produce a ring out of thin air.
right. I mean, why does John have a ring to give her in the first place? Is it like, hey, if we run across anybody who wants to be a Green Lantern, who shows potential, let's give him a ring.
Got him in
I
his pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
But if he
Uh,
lands on Earth, it's in a Cracker Jack box. Don't forget.
I thought the costume, the uniform was interesting. I thought it was maybe a little overly complex,
I like the white. I think the white looks cool.
but it's okay. I just felt like it was an odd thing of, hey, all of a sudden the Green Lantern Corps becomes like Oprah. You get a ring, and you get a ring, and you get a ring, and I don't want it to be that easy to become a Green Lantern.
And also, why isn't she a sapphire? I mean, most Zamorans are, you know what I mean?
Well, she's not Zamaron, she's Tamaranian,
Oh, because she looks, oh, so she's the same as,
as
who's that character?
Blackfire and Starfire.
Starfire is who I'm thinking about.
Blackfire is Starfire's older sister.
Oh, I see. Now that I didn't know. Okay, cool. Starfire. Got it. All right. See, that's why
So
you're there to correct me, man. See?
I like I said, I just don't want this to become a recruit of the month book.
Well, it might be because they're building up the core.
Yeah, I hope they get to the actual story and not just that. But what did you think? What did you think about Hawk Girl showing up at the end of this?
Well, that's good. That's what I mean. If they're gonna put those, well, it's gonna pull on the whole animated cartoon, right? I mean, if you're gonna throw back to that relationship, then if you're gonna pull that kind of card, then that's the fandom you need to reach if you're gonna make them popular again. It's not bad. It's not a bad play, and she looks awesome.
There were a lot of people who watched Super Friends too. I wonder if when we're gonna see Apache Chief show up, right? I
Right. I mean, I don't know.
mean,
I mean, I like it. I hope they. I hope they have a relationship. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Are we undoing the Hawks to make it work?
I don't know. I don't know where Hawkman's at nowadays. Last
It
time I
seems
read Hawkman was the Venditti run, and man, I ate through all those volumes, and it was absolutely magnificent.
I thought he really cleaned up the continuity and stuff and kind of rearranged that all and got it all in order. I just I think I it's a step backwards, just my opinion. I get people liked the Justice League cartoon, but it's over with. You know, if everything's got to be fresh and new, then let's make it fresh and new and not rehash a 20-year-old cartoon.
Yeah, maybe it's not a rehash for it. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at it from. I I don't know. There's I mean, the Sinestro and this were the two biggest surprises that I saw being included in this book. I thought Sinestro would appear at some point, but I didn't think it'd be this quick. Not to mention as a Green Lantern.
Again, cynic in me is like, this is an attempt to make John have more charisma than he actually has. Uh,
Well, and he's never really had. When's the last time he's had a love interest?
oh, great. I have no problem with having a love interest. I just, do we have to mind that again? Not a fan, but
It depends on, but it depends. I mean, if your goal, it depends on what your goal is. Like, I mean, Hawkgirl has been what, subpar popular? You know, she was popular during the animated stuff too. You know, Hawkman has kind of been popular a little bit more so because at least appeared in a couple things lately. But
sure, sure.
I don't know, maybe it's just something to pull those worlds together in a way to. I get what you're saying about rehashing that relationship and stuff, but that's not such a bad thing. I mean,
I guess I'm looking back at that whole thing, trying to make everybody happy. Let's pull everything from everywhere and use it.
well, we won't
And
know until we know, I guess.
right, right. I for me, the artwork in places took it down a peg, and her
Mm.
arrival took it down a little bit of peg, and the whole thing with Blackfire. I don't know.
I wasn't. Some of the art was kind of. I didn't like Jessica's. I think she
No,
there was a look where Jessica was standing at the end, and she was looking over her right shoulder, and then John was standing. I didn't like either of their faces. Hers just kind
no.
of looked misshapen a little bit.
And this one for Joe Mullane for me was what really was like, really?
But the one thing I do think was really cool looking is the cover. And I like Guy Gardner being at the front.
Yeah.
I thought he looks pretty cool on there. But it's a good strong opener though. I mean, it's early yet, so we got to let things percolate a little bit to see where this is going. So once again, it's going to be by book what 3 or 4 until you know what
Right.
kind of fuel we're running on.
I think it all comes back to expectation. Like, you tell me a new Green Lantern Corps is launching, and I'm expecting some really cool sci-fi story that uses the core, and this really wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be. It
Well,
was
not
just,
only that, I was expecting to see like a splash page with a bunch of core members on there at some point, and
yeah,
somebody standing, talking, doing something with them. You know, let me know the size and the scope of what's coming up here with the way the core is. I mean, and does that number still stand? Well, it used to be 3,600, right?
right, right. Well,
Or
7,200 when you have two per sector.
7,200, right? Two.
I, g- I guess one of the things that really disturbed me a little bit was you're going to OA, and this is the central precinct they call, and all of them are sitting there in the mess halls. Like, don't you guys have jobs to do? There are sector houses out there. Get to work. What do you
Who's working the science cells?
exactly?
Come on. Who's guarding the book of all? Oh, wait, it's gone. Somebody, oh, the Sorrow guy's got it.
Why is everybody just hanging around? It used to be that I'm gonna sound like the guy get off my lawn guy. It used to be the Green Lanterns getting together in any kind of number was a rare occurrence, and now it's like we're on OA and everybody's just kind of chilling out, having sandwiches and giving birth to water babies. Uh,
Give it birth to water. Hey,
uh,
call it a core downtime. They're recharging. Ha.
recharging. They don't have a fast charging ring. They have a slow charging ring. Uh,
I liked it. I'm looking forward to how they play with it. You know, I mean, I hope it's true to being a core book. You know, I'm not gonna pass too harsh a judgment coming out of the gate here with issue 1, but by 4 and 5, if we don't have any kind of variation of core members, and I start seeing some different names being thrown around and be like, okay, what are we doing here? You know,
I think if I were going to rank it, like if I were writing reviews, I would probably give it about a 7.5, 7.5 out of 10.
that's fair. That's fair.
I don't think it was bad, but it wasn't as good as I hoped. I guess that's my take on it.
I always go by the surprise factors, like what's surprising to me. Like when Sinestro appeared, I was like, okay, well, that's cool. But it also brings up a lot more questions, right?
Right,
And then,
right.
of course, Hawk Girl at the end appearing, I was like, that's interesting. Again, brings up a lot more questions, though. So, and to me, that's the pull. And maybe that's its purpose as a writer, you know, delivering those those sparks that start conversations like you and I have on what the contextual meaning is behind throwing those characters in there. I mean, let alone one having the green ring back like nothing's ever happened. Like everybody don't know that this guy's been the worst villain in the history of villains, but that's okay. Give him a green ring back and let's just go ahead and fight him back. It's like pardoning your worst prisoner and then having him come and join your administration.
Right, right. Well, and to me, the bigger question is where is Sornik Natu?
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't been tapped on in a long time. I mean, nobody's saying anything about her. I would assume she's back on Korrigar. Maybe. I don't know. Running the yellows, I hope.
Well, the yellows aren't around anymore.
Maybe she's running them in the background. Maybe her. Here's a hypothetical. Maybe her and Sinestro, she's behind the scenes, you know, with the yellow, and maybe her and Sinestro are working to undermine the Green Lantern Corps.
I want to see Sornik Natu and Kyle Rayner interact again.
There you go. I was pulling those threads. Which, by the way, Kyle was in this, but he wasn't in there. Was he? He was just pictured, wasn't
He
he?
was just in the background more than anything else.
Yeah, poor Kyle.
But he's got a major plot going on over in the Green Lantern title,
Yeah, that's true. He's all right. I
which
don't
I
know.
thought
Good
was
book.
odd. Which I thought was odd because he's dealing with stuff going on that's supposed to be concurrent to this, but here he is flying around in the background. Where's editorial when you need him?
I know. I like it. I'm glad we got a core book back. I hope it. I
I'm
hope it
happy it's
exceeds expectations.
I hope it meets expectations. I'm happy it's back. I hope it gets better. Not that it's bad, but expectations, reality. Expectations, reality. Um, I want to see it be better. All right. We've got some listener feedback, and we'll cut to that, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
The first message is from Warlion, who has comments about the current Green Lantern titles. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Wishing you the best, Myron. On the comic side of things, I've been enjoying everything coming out recently, and getting 2 connected GL titles has me excited. I read GLC yesterday and loved it. I hate the last page, though, as it seems like we're going to have synergy with a show that ended 2 decades ago for some reason. I grew up watching that show and wasn't a comics reader until I became an adult. So to me, it feels strange to see DC catering to a casual audience that most of them don't really read comics. I'm an Egyptian, so like most of the world, and unlike America, we have high numbers of casual comics media fans, but almost none of them reads comics for multitude of reasons that would take a lot of time and text space to list. So most of the show's fans vividly remember the show and don't read comics, if they even remember it at all. You and others talk about JLU fans a lot, but many forget for some reason that the ones still active online are mostly Americans, so they're a niche audience and not a majority in any sense. The sad irony for me in the book itself is Fernando Pasarin drawing this story when he was involved in a lot of what Venditti did with Hawkman that apparently GLC is throwing out of the window. I trust Adams and Hampton, and I've enjoyed everything Adams did at DC so far, including GLC, but I'm skeptical because 80 years of Hawks and 50 years of John are suddenly out of the window to appeal to fans who don't read comics. If they did, then Hawkman and John books wouldn't fail sales-wise all the time. Another thing about JLU that reinforces my point is that when X-Men the Animated Series got restarted as X-Men 97, someone tagged Gunn and asked for JLU to get restarted, to which Gunn replied that they can't do, which to me is a statement on how badly JLU is doing on streaming, rentals, and what have you. Since those things doing great numbers are why shows like X-Men 97 got made, and even Velma, which HBO Max created, was renewed for a season because of that. It was hate watch for most people, but it still did the trick, which is why after season 2 they canceled the show. No one hate watched it, so it didn't get views. So the existing JLU fans aren't as many as we perceive, and WBDC knows that, just like Marvel knew that X-Men TAS was doing great numbers. Sorry for the long comment, and hopefully you didn't get bored by it.
Hey, Warlion, thanks for reaching out. And like I said, I appreciate all the well wishes that are coming from people all over the place. And it helps when you get into some of those dark moments when you really get depressed to look at the fact that there are people out there that do care about you and wish you the best and so on. It helps motivate and strengthen us when we need it. So I appreciate that. But your comments on Green Lantern Corps kind of reflect a lot of mine. I didn't like that last page either. But some people will cheer it. Some people will. We have a very diverse and divisive fan base. And no matter what they do, some people are going to love it, some people not so much. And in this case, I'm in the not so much category. I didn't grow up watching the show, but I did watch it. It was okay. I don't think it was as great as people think it is. I think that people are looking at it through the lens of nostalgia. I don't like what it did for Jon Stewart in terms of making him a rather one-note, one-dimensional character that just shoots ring blasts. But some people, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Pazarin, yeah, some of it's good, some of it not so hot. I do trust Adams, and I don't know Hampton well enough to know whether or not I trust that writer yet. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm just kind of skeptical about the fact that they've, like you said, they've disregarded some of the Hawk stuff and John and putting something in the comics that wasn't really there before. I mean, I guess there are a couple of places where it was kind of alluded to, but I just don't. I don't know. And your comparison to X-Men I thought was pretty spot on.
I mean, it really is. I mean, that is it seems like both Marvel and DC have their shows that they that came out during that period where they seem like they're double popular now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
or they're not as popular as people thinks they are. Like I don't think doing this in this book is going to bring more readers to the book.
true.
It just isn't, because if that were the case, then doing a John Stewart book in general would have done gangbusters. And we've had 2 series that really didn't sell all that great. So I don't think that Justice League Unlimited fans are really as big of a vocal audience as you might think they are. And will somebody tune into the Lantern show because Jon Stewart's in it? Because they're a Justice League fan? I don't know. I mean, if you look at some of the other things that have been done, just because you slap any character's name on it doesn't mean it's going to just sell unless it's Batman, right?
Well, and I think everybody's missing the target audience here. I mean, DC doesn't have a counterpart when it comes to an African American hero of the caliber that, what's his face is and over in there, and gosh, who
Black
played
Panther. Black Panther.
Black Panther, right? So, I mean,
They don't.
the next equivalent over here would be like Jon Stewart, to end an answer to that, if that's the game they're playing. I don't know. I would
Right.
assume that's the place.
I personally think Black Lightning, Mr. Terrific, and Cyborg are all better characters than Jon Stewart.
And I think Cyborg I think he's got more depth as a character, especially with how he was created.
I think
Uh,
he's more relatable.
and I think he was mishandled in the Justice League
Oh
movie.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think he was totally misused, but at the same time, yeah, I do agree with you. And it was a missed opportunity to make a caliber of a character for an African American trait, but I think that's what John Stewart's supposed to do for DC moving forward, and maybe they're trying to push him to that ultimate level. I don't know. It's going to be interesting when him and the other ones interact. You know what I mean? If he's at that level.
I don't think he is, but that's
Me
just
neither.
me.
Agreed.
Anyway, Warline, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Powering, why don't you give us the next piece of listener feedback?
We have an audio transmission from Andrei from Russia. Commencing playback in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Myron and Phil. It's Andre from Russia. I'm really sorry to hear about your stroke, Myron. I can only imagine how tough things must be for you right now, and I hope you're taking the time you need to rest and recover. Your health comes first, and I'm rooting for you every step of the way. You said that typing is difficult for you at the moment, which has to be frustrating, especially given all the work you put into covering Green Lantern news. But I was thinking, have you considered starting a TikTok account? Instead of writing long articles, you could make short videos to share updates, thoughts, and news. It might be an easier way to stay connected with your audience while reducing the strain of typing. Plus, with your knowledge and passion, I'm sure fans would love hearing directly from you. Though shadows fall and times seem dire, your heart is strong, your soul's on fire. Heal and rise, reclaim your flight, your will shines on an endless light.
All right, Andre, good to hear from you again. Say, listen, thanks for the big shout out to the main man, Myron here. You know, we're all worried about him, you know, and his health comes first. We've been trying to get on the mic for, a few days now, so I wanted to make sure that he was going to be cool and be okay with it because we don't need anything happening on the cast. And Deb running in and giving you mouth to mouth.
Well, mouth to mouth, I'll go from mouth to mouth.
Take it. We'll take it. Andre, I hope things are good in Russia. So as far as the TikTok account, I don't know. I'm not a big TikTok person, and I don't want to. This is Myron's show though, so I don't speak for Myron when it comes to that. But me personally, I just I'm hesitant of TikTok, but
I'm probably more likely to do YouTube shorts than I am TikTok.
yeah.
Only because in this country, there's recently been a lot about TikTok, and TikTok was almost taken completely away and it got put back on. So I'm probably more apt to do that than anything else. But I do think that I'm going to do more YouTube content just because I think it's going to be easier for me to produce than it will be for me to type, at least in the interim, while I try to get everything back to where it was. One of the things I did in the last week or so, partially just because I needed to feel productive, was I cut that new intro video. And I really would like to hear people's thoughts on that. Did you like it? Did you like the new music? I'd like to hear some feedback on that because we've had this will be the third time we've had a new intro slash theme. I'd like to hear people's take on it. I was trying to get away from maybe doing all of the more orchestral stuff and kind of being a little more, I don't want to say hard hitting. That's not the word either, but I don't
Edgy.
know, edgy, maybe edgy. So I appreciate people's feedback on that if they can provide it. And thank you so much for doing the audio file because that does save me a few steps. Making the listener feedback parts of the video part for YouTube is probably one of the longest pieces of the editing. It takes me longer to do that than it does for me to edit the rest of the show. So having that piece taken out makes it easier. And I'm not sure how much we'll do listener feedback because of the time. I got to play it out. This will be the first episode where I've done listener feedback since the stroke, and I want to see how it goes. I don't want to get rid of listener feedback because I think it's really important to make the communication between us and our listeners two directional. And I really do want to hear what you guys have to say because it helps stimulate conversation between Phil and I. And I think it's very valuable. So I certainly don't want to change it in too much of a way. So we'll continue as far as we can, as long as we can. And if it becomes a longer thing, maybe it'll just be making audio and playing the audio with the logo in the background instead of trying to do the whole speech to text thing and have the text scroll up as I go. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to change the show too much to accommodate me. I'd rather push myself to try to do it the way that I've been doing it, as long as that's what people like. So powering, why don't you tell people how they can be a part of the show, and then Phil, you and I can come back and we can wrap it all up.
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406-POD-OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, welcome back, fellow Owens. Well, that was a good one, a fun one. We're introducing a new book tonight. It's been talked about for a little bit, and I don't read anybody else's reviews or anything like that until we record, but All in all, moving forward, we'll see what this title is going to yield. It could be a train wreck. It could be, I don't think it's going to be as bad as the Jon Stewart run we had, a couple years back. But I'm more optimistic that we'll at least we'll have some good encounters moving forward.
Right, right. It's like, as you and I were talking off, Mike, you have to look for the wins and not the losses.
That's right.
And celebrate the wins when you have them.
We got a book. That's what matters.
That's right. That's right. So again, really appreciate all the well wishes. And we're gonna, as I said to Phil before we started recording, is this might slow me down, but it's not going to stop me. So it's all about willpower, baby.
Hey, but speaking of which, is Deb ready to step up to the mic just in case, she might need to be a fill-in for one?
No, she has no interest in that at all.
Okay. Kind of figured.
But
Thought I'd ask.
we should be back. Let's see. There should be a Green Lantern book out in a couple of weeks, I think. Although it looks like they're changing the schedule a little bit in Green Lantern. Instead of being at the beginning of the month, it's going to shift towards the end of the month. So we'll see what comes out. And we've got Ultimate Green Lantern coming out too. I don't know if I'm actually going to read that one or not. I haven't decided.
I haven't decided on that. I'm still on the fence with the dark one.
I kind of resolved myself to waiting until that comes out in trade.
I think I might do the same with that because I just don't know. I read the first issue and I came away from it kind of like, I don't know what to think about it. Maybe I need to read it again. But then I was like, well, I don't want to read it again because if I don't have that thought again, I at least want to get more out of it. So I think I might do the same thing you do.
All I can think of about the Ultimate book is, again, haven't read it yet, so we can't really pass judgment. But the vibe I get is like this is like 5G.2.
Yeah.
And I'm not really interested in that. And I'm not interested in seeing John and Hal being just human characters that really don't have any interaction, and Joe Moline as being the Green Lantern. I'm not interested at all.
I got it. It makes sense. You do
But
you, man. That's all that matters.
that's right. It's all I can do. But until next time, should be in a couple weeks. But until next time, treat each other well, keep that power ring charged, and make every day your brightest day. Thanks. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of Oa. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.